Jy luister na Isak Du Plessis op Nuuspot.
Hello. Can you see me?
Mr. Moeng, I can hear you, I can see you.
That's good.
And you are in front of the picture that I saw you the first time I had an interview with you.
Yeah, I'm closing the loop.
And the reason why that is because Mr. Solly Moeng just returned from Sweden.
Switzerland.
Yes. Coming back to South Africa, the next Minister of International Relations.
If South Africans want it.
Welcome, Solly Moeng. Welcome back in the country.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
You've been there for a while.
Yeah, almost 3 years. But even my friends.
You did come back quickly, but you were staying there for 3 years.
Correct. I did come back, and the last time I came here, well, one of the previous times in April last year, I got marked at knife point and gun point. They took my bike. It's very unmemorable. It's very memorable, rather. Very that kind of trauma stays with you, and you can imagine all the trauma that other people live with in this country. It's crazy.
Of course, every day, yes, every day. Yeah. But that's the reason you are back. Standing for Action SA in their top structure, their shadow cabinet, hoping to stand in the portfolio of international relations, and the elections coming nearer now. 14
days. Yes, 14 days.
Are you excited about this election?
I'm excited about the possibility that there will be change finally in South Africa, and I hope that all the polls that place the ANC above 40% are incorrect. I hope that they are incorrect. I think that it's going to receive a bit of a lashing. That's why it had to take out all these old guys like Mbeki, Tokyo Sehole, what's the other guy, Motlanthe. I think they could feel the heat. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited that we are coming to these elections, and I just hope that they go as well as they should, and that there's no interference with electoral processes, and that whatever will emerge after the 29th will be a true reflection of South African voters' will.
Listen, Solly, but I'm burning to ask you this, so I'm going to ask you so much straight in the beginning.
Let's do it.
You are a gentleman and a gentleman. You are poetic. You are a writer. You are on the soft side of life, meaning the more gentle side. I don't identify you with the more bloody side that part of South African politics.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really want to go into this?
No, I didn't really want to go into it. The last time I came here in November last year, I was interviewed, and I said absolutely not. A few other people said, you go into politics. I said absolutely not. I think, of course I had to think about this, that I had been pissing into the political tent from outside for more than 20 years, and nothing has changed. These people get more hardened, more arrogant. Levels of impunity continue to grow. So I could stay outside and continue writing articles and saying things on Facebook, on other social media platforms, commenting on TV, radio, and getting applauses and nice messages from people saying, yeah, say it. But nothing changes. So in life, we can't keep doing things the same way over and over again and expect different outcomes. And if you really look at many of the players in these elections are what I call accidental politicians. I mean, including Herman Mashama, who leads Action SA. I mean, even Zibi, many other people were just minding their own businesses as South Africans who just wanted to live their lives, right? But then they realized that at some point we need to get into the tent, roll up our sleeves, and hopefully stand a chance of being part of the changes we've been calling for. So we're like unwilling politicians. I try to come up with the term accidental political contributor, not a politician. So I'm not. It looks like I'm going to have to learn to shout at people and scream at people. I don't know how that's going to happen. No, it's not something that I had planned for myself at all. But people who've been observing me say, "Well, Solly, it kind of makes sense that we're ending up there." But also the truth is, my friends in Switzerland were saying, "But you're here with us, but half of you is in South Africa." I mean,
Mm,
I wake up every morning, I want to hear what's being said on Cape Talk, on 702, on SAFM. I want to see the South African papers, so half of my life is obsessed with what's going on with South Africa, and of course pained as well by the kind of things that are happening here. Pained, by the way, even in my own neighborhood here in Cape Town, people are not able to take walks anymore. It's very dangerous. People are locking themselves in high fences, electric fences, cameras all over the place. They're looking through the windows at people
mm,
walking past, taking over the streets. I mean, it's not just only the abuses in politics, but also the extent to which the rot has come down into the way we live life. I mean, the way people just damage infrastructure. We throw paper, we litter. There's no consciousness and there's no leadership that says, guys,
mm.
stop. And so we also, the people, have to take responsibility if we want to see this country heal from the many years of lack of decisive leadership.
You have a very big following, and from from across all specters of South Africa. If I look at your Facebook, people like the stuff you say, even when they differ from you. You
Yeah.
have a way of talking with people, and still draw them nearer.
Well, we're a very diverse country, and I keep saying to people that the problem with South Africans is that we haven't learned to climb one another's hills. In other words, and those hills are identity hills. It could be a gender identity, religious identity, racial identity, cultural, etc., etc. We keep shouting at each other because we don't understand what the other is seeing from their own perspective. So we need to keep quiet a little bit more and listen a little bit more and empathize
Mm,
a little bit more. Because the thing is, South Africa is a very diverse country, will always be a diverse country. And actually, the wealth of this country is in our diversity. We need to appreciate that. We cannot have a world where winners take all, zero sum games. It's just, if we do that, we just keep feeding the vicious cycle of
mm,
inhumanity over the other. So we need, not everybody is going
mm,
to be agreed with all the time. I get insulted, I get called
mm.
names all the time, and it's part of, as long as people do it politely and disagree, I'm happy to engage people who disagree and say why they disagree. It's harder to deal with people who just insult you because they have nothing smart to say.
What I'd like to know from you is, still sort of attaching to the topic that we're talking about, is, if you are elected, um, uh, if Action SA does well enough, which I think they will, and you get a place in Parliament, we still not going to be rid of the ANC. Um, and I must tell you one thing: you can say what you want about the ANC, but hell, they are politicians, shrewd politicians, and it's like an art form nearly.
Yeah,
Um,
but
will
it's
you will
also
you
a,
be will you be able to stand against those kind of people?
well, I've been standing against those people from outside for years. I mean, the reason I ended up leaving is because, of course, there was too much heat and there was a lot of blacklisting threats and all this sort of thing.
Mm,
So now I'm going to face them in Parliament if we get elected into Parliament, and hopefully there I will be protected by the parliamentary security officers. Even Malema, all these guys, we're going to face them in there. I think, look, the ANC has been in power for 30 years. It's a pity. They might be smart, shrewd, but they are also deceitful. They are liars, they
mm,
are thieves. Look at the state of South Africa. And then we keep hearing, oh yeah, but there are good people in the ANC. Well, the net effect of the ANC on South Africa is a bad. So
Mm,
whoever is a good person in the ANC is not having the kind of effect that we need for
mm,
South Africa to be a better country. Look at the economy, look at this infrastructure that we inherited, most of which from apartheid. Look at the roads, look at all the potholes that people make jokes about. Look at the education, health, foreign policy, which is skewed towards Russia and
mm.
the East, which is emotional. We go into the international stage and we throw tantrums. We don't understand the art of politics. We take tantrums. We think that throwing tantrums in the national state stage is a way to do things. But here in South Africa, we're disrespectful of South Africans. The money, if you think about the opportunity cost of all the money that's been stolen through state capture and other forms of corruption, is massive. And if you think of what could have been done with that money, and if you think about the arrogance of the ANC that continues now to field people who've been implicated in all sorts of wrongdoing so that they want to send them back to parliament. People like Malusi Kigaba, I mean, Novula Mokunyani has been re-elected. She has huge Busasa shadow hanging over her head, and many others that Ramaphosa reappointed even when he became president. He was supposed to be Mr. Cleanup. He wasn't Mr. Cleanup. He's been very undecisive. He famously said to South Africans, I'd rather be seen as a weak president rather than to see my ANC split. I mean, come on. He has no respect for the people. So that's the kind of arrogance I'm telling about. They think this country belongs to them. They can do and say everything they want. If South Africa is to heal, the ANC has to be weakened or defeated massively so that it no longer controls policy making on its own.
Solly, you chose Action SA as your vehicle to do your part. Why?
Well, as I said earlier, honestly, I never planned to be in politics, never. But I have been speaking to political leaders, several political leaders, including Mashaba, and not leaders in the ANC and ANC and EFF. I don't think they would take my call. And in the end, Mashaba is the one who called me. I was never knocking on anybody's doors to let me in because that was never my plan. But but when Mashaba called me and said, "But Solly, you've been speaking out of the tent for many years. Look at me. I'm a businessman. I'm successful. I didn't need to be here. Actually, it's really, really tough. I hate this job." He keeps saying, "But we need people like you to come back home and help us make the changes that we want." It was strong for me. It hit my conscience. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't live with it. I couldn't not do anything and then be able to say I tried. It is this what I'm doing, having accepted that call invitation by Mashama, which I appreciate, is will give me the opportunity to try so that one day I can look back and say, you know what, I tried.
May I ask you why not the stronger party like the DA, which um, which looks basically the same as Action SA?
It doesn't, but anyway. No. I'm just being naughty here. Look,
No, but I like your
but it
answer.
doesn't. One is blue, one is green. But look, like I said, I wasn't going around asking for people to invite me to their parties. So they didn't invite me. So, and Mashaba invited me. I accepted Mashaba's party. But I would have struggled with the DA invitation, not because I hate them, but because
Mm.
as a black dude and giving all the stories about black people going in there, walking away with their reputations under their armpits. I thought if I went to the DA, I would end up having wrong conversations. In other words, they would be like, okay, let's see how long this one
Okay.
is going to last. Is it going to make it? Are they going to give him the space? Look at my money. Look at so and so. Look at so and so. So I didn't want to be in that space where I have to constantly justify why I joined the DA.
Mm.
But I do think that the DA does a lot of good things. And no matter what people say, I would rather have the DA if I were not a politician, because I'd rather have action and say now. I'm just simply saying in the Western Cape, and we are part of the MPC together, the multi-party charter with the DA, right? So the biggest threat to South Africa's well-being is not the DA, it's the ANC, it's the EFF, it's MK, all those extreme parties who are that are called the ideological subsidiaries of the African National Congress. So Yeah, I mean, I accepted Mashaba's
Mm.
call because he called me, and I'm comfortable with him. I've been speaking to Mashaba for a long time. He calls me, I calls him, we chat over stuff. So I got to know him over time, and it doesn't mean that I would have accepted just any other call because I
I
wouldn't.
understand.
I was happy to accept yes, and so
Uh,
far so.
one of the problems the DA has, and I think it's a real problem, is the fact that they can't get that depth of black support that they need to be a bigger opposition party. I'm looking at Action SA. I like what I see. I like the people that I'm talking to, but I don't get the feeling that they are doing much better in regard of black support than the DA. It's as if they draw the same sort of support when it comes to black voters.
I don't
I'm
think so.
I'm putting
I
it
don't.
as a question.
I don't think so. I think that look, Action SA first of all is a 3-year-old party. Remember, it
Mm,
hasn't been around for as long as the DA. When even before it went into its first elections, the local government elections in 2021, all the polls underestimated what Action SA would get in Johannesburg, in Tshwane. Some of them gave it. They said, "Oh, maybe they'd end up with 1 or 5 seats." It ended up with about over 40 seats. So the Action SA, I mean, the leadership is on the ground. Other people working for the Action as a campaign for Action, Mashaba, the members of the team Fix South Africa, the premier candidates and others are on the ground all the time. I see them engaging, and even on my own Facebook page, it's a diverse community. It is a relatively small community, but it's very diverse. People are very supportive of my move into Action SA. And a lot of people anyway have been saying, but Solly, you keep saying all these things on Facebook, on the TV, on radio. You need to come into the tent. So I came into the tent. I haven't
mm,
received much backlash. I mean, a few individuals, have
mm.
insulted, but most people are supportive. And I think Action SA is going to surprise a lot of people. It really is going to surprise in the same way that it did at local government elections level. It's going to do so
Mm.
again here.
What do you see in your mind after the 29th of May? If you have someone put a crystal ball in your hand.
I think obviously most people agree that we're going to end up with a coalition of sorts. And I hope that it will not be a destructive coalition. Of course, my hope is that it's an MPC coalition because we have a broad understanding of what needs to be done. Fixing South Africa is not just a matter of replacing one group of people with
Mm,
another group of people. There are some fundamental changes that are going to have to happen, and not all of them will be done overnight. There's got to be agreement on what systemic changes, institutional changes need to be made to ensure that nobody ever gets to do to South Africa what the ANC did to South Africa. So if we end up with a coalition, say with the ANC and its ideological subsidiaries, EFF, MK, and all those people out of
mm,
desperation, well, this country is going to head big time. There's no doubt about it. So that I hope South Africans vote more with common sense than with emotion. This
mm,
time, we mustn't vote for the ANC because we've been voting well. I used to be an ANC voter. Actually, I used to even have a card member of the membership card of the ANC years ago. I mean, years ago. I stopped voting for them years ago. Okay, and so a lot of us who grew up in the townships where we looked at these people as heroes in the early
mm,
90s when they came back from exile, when they lived
mm,
released from prison, we were super excited. I was really, really excited about the ANC. And, a lot of people, especially in the NGO sector, who had been on the ground during the years of apartheid, helping out, families of detained people, providing food, providing literacy, numeracy skills in townships, in rural areas, and other forms of assistance. They gave up. They said, "Okay, now we have a government of the people by the people. We are no longer needed." But now, over the past number of years, it's become clear that this government, this so-called government of the people by the people, is failing the people. And people are beginning to stand up again to say, wait a minute, we have to play a part. And I think that there is a need for change. And I hope that the coalition that's going to emerge after the elections, because it's very unlikely that one party is going to match, a coalition is going to match. And I hope that we actually, as will be a very decisive member of that coalition, are working really hard towards becoming a very leading member in that coalition, so that we can start instituting the kind of changes that we've been talking about, that we know South Africans and South Africa need.
Sorry, part of which makes the ANC stronger than we want them, I think, if I look at it, is especially the rural support and in the very poor township areas,
Right.
where they have got this heroship, people looking at them as heroes, even though they are throwing shirts at them like dogs.
Yeah.
Those people keep on keeping the ANC in power. How are we going to change that? Because I sometimes get the feeling, and still, again, it's a question, something that I see, but I'm putting it as a question to you, that even the new black middle class coming up and are far away from these voters. They've been divided.
Look, first of all, the election is not just for the ANC to lose; it's for somebody to win. So it's important that people like us, actually say, and others, aspiring to get into the big upside, the piece of the pie, continue to work hard to convince, to explain, to educate. We can't just hope that people will just vote for us because they're disappointed in the ANC. They have to see us providing them with an alternative they can live with, right? But also in a country where there are high levels of poverty, high levels of lack of education, or poor, especially civic education. I'm not talking about PhDs and master's degrees and BAs. I'm talking about civic education, people understanding how the democracy functions. It's very easy to take advantage of people, as you say, to throw them, to throw lunch boxes, to invite them to a party, put them into a bars, entertainment, and entertain them for a day, and hope that they'll vote for you, or go to visit people's homes, buy them milk and butter and this and that. And so people need to realize that elections are not just about instant gratification. They also need to realize they need to learn to read the constitution, to understand how this democracy functions, and to also understand, appreciate that at the end of our democracy, of the apartheid, at the beginning of this new era, we have never signed up to be led by one bunch of politicians forever. We can't give power to the same bunch of people for 30 years and expect that they'll come up with new ideas. They've run out of ideas long ago. It's not only because they've run out of ideas, but they've become too blasé, abusive. They take things for granted. As you say, there's no respect for the people of South Africa. People could just lie to the people of South Africa. They steal. And we South Africans need to stop treating politicians like heroes. I mean, you see Zuma coming into a hall and people dancing up and down, asking, "When's the new Zuma? What has Zuma done?" This dude handed South Africa, aided by the ANC, not on his own, because they defended him many times in Parliament against motions of no confidence. So they were there with him, and they benefited from him being there. But South Africans need to realize that this man is bad for South Africa. The ANC is bad for South Africa. They have abused this country. I'm fortunate to have lived in other parts of the world, including in Switzerland recently. People who've had hope in this country, they look at it and say, "But what have you guys done to your country?" Look at all these big companies that are now talking about leaving the country, divesting from South Africa. It's painful because the kind of confidence and the kind of goodwill that used to exist for South Africa around the world is gone. I mean, we know about some of the comments that were made about South Africa at the World Economic Forum by journalists. That Richard, gentleman from CNN, I forget his name, he was very clear about what are you guys coming to do here? What story do you have to tell investors to attract them to your country? The ANC has messed up. It's been arrogant. It hasn't appreciated the potential role leading role that South Africa can play in the world. They've abused all of that stuff, but it's up to the people to educate themselves to understand that it's a lot bigger than just us here. South Africa. It's also about the role that this country plays in Africa, in the global south in the world. There's work that needs to be done, including looking at the reforms of the United Nations Security Council. That body was formed soon after the World War II. It was okay for those times, but it's no longer good for the world that we are living today. We know that those five members that carry the veto abuse it. They abuse it to defend their own bodies. Suddenly, these global institutions seem to be abused against the rest of the world. So many countries in the General Assembly of the United Nations would vote a resolution. It just takes one country to say, no, that's nonsense. It cannot be. It cannot be that so much power is placed on one or two or three or four or five countries against all the other members of this global community of nations. So those have to change, and South Africa has to play a part there. We have to understand why it's important for South Africa to be there, not as a child throwing tantrums and screaming at everybody, but coming there with logical arguments, understanding that we have to work with everybody over time to get the kind of changes that are needed, because they're good for South Africa, they're good for Southern Africa, they're good for Africa, and eventually they're good for the entire world.
Solly Moeng, the candidate for Shadow Minister for Action SA for International Relations. Thank you very much for your time. As always, this is too short to really talk to you, but let's not kill the the listeners. But thank you so much for making time for me. It's very, very nice to see you again.
I really appreciate this. I'm really happy to be back home, and I hope that you're going to support Action SA, your listeners. Listen, if you want the changes, you could have voted for us. Otherwise, we're going to end up having the same conversation in a year's time. We don't want that.
There you have Solly Moeng. Thank you so much, Solly.
Bye-bye, Isaac. Nice to talk to you. Bye-bye.
Jy luister na Isak Du Plessis op Nuuspot.